Hello everyone. You might be wondering about why so many of the hot deserts, be it the Saharan Desert, the Mexican or the Mojave Desert, or else the Thar Desert. If you observe, all are located on the same latitudes. You might be wondering about why. Let us understand about why all the hot deserts are located on the same latitude. Welcome all of you to the Super Coaching UPSC by Textbook. This is Venkatesh, your faculty for geography. So without much wastage of time, let us start it. Now, first thing, what do you mean by desert? Let us understand about the remaining aspects of why are they located, the mapping and all the things later on. The first thing which we need to understand is what do you mean by desert? Anyone? Can you mention? Let me see the comments. What do you mean by the desert here? Desert means what? A dry area, semi-arid area with lack of precipitation, and obviously with these things lack of vegetation. So a desert is a region is one which is having lack of vegetation, which is having the characteristics of lesser precipitation, because of which how does the ecosystem actually survive in that? That is what we call it as a desert ecosystem, and the climate there is what we call it as a desert climate. So when you talk about this desert climate, if it is part of the tropical part of the world, the tropical nature of the world, say for example between the latitudes of 30 degrees to 30 degrees north and south, then they are called as the tropical deserts. It is part of the tropical. Because of the tropical nature, where do you find more heat, temperature? They are called as hot deserts of the world. So that is a thing. So what are hot deserts of the world? The deserts which are found in the regions of tropical parts of the world, which are having the typical characteristics like lack of vegetation, which is what we call it as a desert. You can see in the picture. Do you find much vegetation? Very, very limited, no? Maybe you will find some cactus and all those kind of things, but you are not finding the gigantic trees. The moment you say about a forest, look at how does the landscape changes. When I say forest, the landscape is all about such a big one, but that is perhaps not the case later on, right? So when that is what you need to remember here. Okay, so deserts are this. Then can you name all the deserts here? You can clearly see the deserts here, the names. See, this is the geographical equator. Then the Tropic of Cancer, 23.5 degrees. You can see. (23.5 degrees north). Then you will see in the south 23.5 degrees south. Around these latitudes itself, you are finding all the hot deserts. Please remember the names. The mighty Saharan Desert. So let's start with Africa. Saharan Desert. Then the Arabian Desert. The Thar Desert of India and Pakistan. Then right above this, here you can talk about the Mojave, the northern side, Mojave, Sonoran or Mexican Desert. This is for North America. If you see all these four deserts, they are located in the same latitude. Then in the south as well, if you see here, start from the Atacama Desert. You can see the Atacama Desert of South America. You can see the Namibian or the Kalahari Desert. Namibian or Kalahari Desert of the Africa. And then you can see the Australian Desert. The Australian Desert. Even they are located in the same latitudes. All these hot deserts, if you observe, they are located within the latitudes of hot deserts. They are located within the latitudes of what? 20 to 35 degrees north and south latitudes respectively. Why do you think they are located only at 20 to 35 degrees? Number one. But you'll also observe that they are located at the latitudes of west side of a continent. Another idea. You'll always see that they are located on the west side of a continent. Can you see it here? They are located on the west, Mojave Desert, western side of the continent North America. Saharan Desert, west. Of course, it also extended eastwards. Why? We will discuss this later. Exception is only for this. Atacama Desert, west, not on the east. Then you see it here. Namibian or the Kalahari Desert, west, not on the east. Then you see Australian Desert, mostly towards the west, not on the east. Of course, it extended even to the central part. What explains the reason? Anyone? Let us decode this one by one. The first thing, why they are located within the latitudes of 20 to 35 degrees. The reason one you need to understand why all the hot deserts are located within the latitudes of 20 to 35 degrees. It is because of this is a zone of subtropical high pressure belt. Subtropical high pressure belt. What does the subtropical high pressure belt does? What does the subtropical high pressure belt does? The subtropical high pressure belt, it is a zone of high pressure caused because of air subsidence. What is this? Air descendance, or which we call it as subsidence. Let me explain this. For example, if this is the equator, this is 30 degrees north, this is 30 degrees south, whatever the air which has risen here because of the convective currents at the equator move into the upper atmosphere, and then at a certain point they start descending. What is happening? Imagine this is the equator. Because at the equator you all know that there is more heat, the vertical rays of the sun. So what happens to the air? The process of convection begins. This is what we'll call it as the process of convection. And this is what we'll call the process of subsidence. Now, here, this is the equator. The air is rising. As the air rises, what happens? It's not like the entire air will go into the outer space, no. It will stop at a certain point. This air, as it moves into the outer space, as it moves, it doesn't move into the outer space. As it moves to the higher point of the troposphere, the tropopause at the equator, it is around roughly around 16, 17, 18 kilometers. From there, the air is also by then it's cooled down. As it cooled down, the air will start descending. It starts descending. As it descends, imagine we are here. Whatever the air which has risen here start descending and falls onto the ground level. So whatever the air, it will start moving and it slowly starts descending exactly in the latitudes of 20 to 35. There is one thumb rule of rainfall. What is the thumb rule of rainfall is? What is rainfall actually? Can I say that a precipitation, what is that? Can I say that it is opposite of evaporation? Of course, there is so many kinds of things. Evaporation means what? Evaporation means water in a liquid stage is, because of heat, is converted into gaseous water vapor. Gaseous water vapor which is there in the atmosphere, for it to cool down, then only it can convert into rainfall. Gaseous water vapor into liquid water. For that to happen, you have to take the moisture which is available in the atmosphere at the lower levels to greater heights. Who will take that moisture to the greater heights? Whether it is convection here, that's why there is good rainfall in the equatorial regions. When there is a mountain like Western Ghats obstructing the southwest monsoon, we have decent rainfall, witness Karnataka, Kerala. Keeping the similar idea, you should also need to understand here that whenever wind is subsiding, coming from the upper atmosphere to the ground level, you don't find concentration of air at the surface. You find more concentration of air at the surface, and that too, there is no opportunity for the air to rise. So, generally, in geographical parlance, all the high pressure belts are zones of atmospheric stability where you don't find much rainfall. So, because here the air is subsiding from the upper atmosphere to the ground level, we call this as a dynamic condition of air subsidence, is the reason why there is no rainfall or there are no favorable factors of rainfall. Yes, see, occasionally you might have a rainfall, but not every time. In fact, if you see that there is one region in Libyan Saharan Desert, the rainfall has occurred only, once in the last 10 years, once in last 10 years. Azizia, of course, the Azizia is a high temperature one. So in Libya, there is a rainfall, a region where it occurred rainfall only once in the last 10, 12 years. Imagine one generation has seen rainfall only once. Imagine the generation which was born after that, suddenly they see water falling from the from the atmosphere. What kind of event is this? They are not aware, right? So that is, they haven't seen it physically. So that's what is the thing. So because whatever the air which is rising from the equator descend into this part of the world, there is no opportunity or there is no favorable condition of rising air. Everything is falling. So with that, the chances of rainfall will be lesser. Do you remember? These are the zones which we call it as horse latitudes. These are the zones which we call it as what? Horse latitudes in the past. What is horse latitude? Horse latitudes are, in the ancient days, they used to throw away the horses into the open sea. Why they used to throw away the horses into the open sea? Because the horses becomes very, the ships which they are, when they are where they are sailing in the ocean, the ships become stranded whenever they enter into the zone of 25, 30 degree latitudes. When they enter at the zone of 25 to 30 degree latitude, you observe that at this part of the junctions, you will observe that because there is air subsidence, everything is falling, there is no horizontal movement of the air, the ships becomes very, cannot move forward back then. And to lighten the ship, they used to throw away the horses and the ship used to move away, start moving. So that's why they used to call it as horse latitudes. Nowadays, there is no such kind of reason. Now we have everything is mechanized. You don't have a challenge. Back then, we used to have a challenge. That is number one. Now, as the ship used to move away, now this is in a horse latitude. The same thing you can understand. Everything wind is subsiding. When wind starts subsiding from the upper atmosphere to the ground level here, there is no opportunity for the air result. In other words, it's a zone of high pressure belt. Subtropical high pressure belt located at the zone of 25 to 20 to 35 degrees north and south latitudes. You will find that is where you will find the desert. The second thing you need to understand, you can see it here. This is the geographical equator, right? If this is the geographical equator, what about the rainfall? Imagine the winds which are blowing here are called as northeast trade winds. They are blowing like this, right? Now you see here, when they are blowing northeast trade winds, as they move from the ocean to the land, this side they give decent amount of rainfall because the winds are moving from the ocean to the land. Whereas here, the winds are moving from land to ocean, but there is no wind which is moving like this. When there is no wind which moves like this, that is from this part of the world towards into this, how can you have rainfall here? So, the trade winds are offshore. So, what is the thing I am trying to tell you? Offshore trade winds. Okay. Rather, you have to say that here they are onshore. you can see onshore trade winds. This part of the world, they give rainfall. The eastern side, they give rainfall. The western side, this part, the trade winds are offshore. So, whatever the winds which are moving here, winds are not having moisture, no rainfall, and there is no kind of a new wind which will move like this here. So, if you see the global winds, you take it here, the global winds would be moving like this. Whereas beyond this, you find the westerlies blowing like this. Here also you'll find the winds blowing like this. Winds blowing here like this. So, on the eastern side, the winds are always coming from the ocean to the land. On the western side, there is no kinds of oceans. There is no kind of winds coming from the oceans. When winds are not coming from the oceans, do you find rainfall, all of you? Do you find rainfall? Do you find moisture? Do you find? Definitely not, right? So, that's the thing. So, what is the second aspect you need to remember? Hot deserts are under the influence of offshore trade winds. That is the reason why they are west side of the continent. Hot deserts are always located on the west side of the continent because you have trade winds which are offshore. Right? So, this is the reason. Then you have to ask me the next question. Why does the Saharan Desert, though it is located on the west, why it is extending towards east? Why the Saharan Desert is the mighty one which extended towards the east as well? Why not? Why not it is also confined, say, up to this point? Why to this point? Anyone? Can you tell me? Can you tell me? Let me see the comments. Let me see the comments. Can you answer, all of you, any one of you? No, it is not about the cold current. Cold current is found here, everywhere. That is not the influence. The influence is, it is this part, there is no water here. If there had been water, then there would have been if there is a water here, then there would have been some kind of winds, the trade winds which are moving, give water here, give rainfall here. But you don't find the winds which are coming, they are dry. So, no rainfall, that way it extended eastwards. Whereas here, the winds as they move, you do find rainfall. Here, you have the mighty Andes mountains obstructing it. Here, you have rainfall on the east. Here also you have rainfall on the east. But here, you don't have rainfall on the east. Why? Distributions of land and water. There is dominance of land here. This is the reason. That is the second reason. So, second reason, why do you find the hot deserts are under the influence of offshore trade winds? Then there is also third reason. The third reason is, every hot desert is always associated with a cold current. You see here, there is a Canary cold current here. You can see this is a hot desert Sahara, there is a cold desert Canaries. When you find the cold desert Canaries current here, what is happening to the thing? It is a current which is coming from the higher latitude to the lower latitude. Generally, it is not warm enough. When it is not warm enough, it reduces the temperatures. When the oceanic water temperature is reduced, what will happen? Moisture would be less or more? It would be lesser. So, whenever the Canary current is there, because of the moisture is lesser, because the temperatures are less, moisture would be automatically less, is the reason why all the cold currents are associated with all the hot deserts are rather associated with the cold currents. Saharan Desert, cold current. Mojave Desert, cold current. There is a Californian current. Atacama Desert, you find the famous Peru current or the Humboldt current, which is associated with El Nino. Then you have here the Benguela current in Africa, Benguela current. Then you have the West Australian current. Everything you can see, it is coming from the higher latitude to lower latitude, whether it is in the north, coming like this, south, coming like this. You see that they are coming because of that. The wind, now the oceanic currents are also contributing. So the third factor why hot deserts are located or how they are formed. 1, 2, then the third factor, oceanic currents. Oceanic currents. Cold oceanic current. What does cold oceanic current do? They are coming from high latitude. So whenever the water is coming from high latitude, temperatures are less. As temperature is less, it reduces moisture availability. If the temperatures are less and reduces the moisture availability, the water would be such lesser, then definitely you will not find much ability. See here, the cold oceanic current making it sure that there is no moisture. Even if there is some moisture, there is no wind which is moving from this part into the land. Even if there is any kind of a wind, the air pressure is making it sure that the air is not rising and not leading to any rainfall. So the God has decided that you would definitely not have rainfall here. So it is continuing. As long as it continues, you will not find any kind of vegetation here. Then human-made activities, humans can also change this. If at all, if you have a big stream, something like a river, if it is moving, if you have water, you can transfer that water via canals and all those kind of things, and you can provide some kind of agriculture or some kind of natural vegetation. Unfortunately, even that is perhaps not the case. So you have found that there is also absence of a permanent stream. Absence of permanent stream. Absence of permanent stream. A variety of all these factors is the reason why hot deserts are not. Hot deserts are always found in these latitudes. For example, for Egypt, which is located here, Egypt, you have the mighty river Nile. River Nile is regarded as the lifeline of ecosystem, lifeline of civilization in Egypt, because had there been no river Nile, Egypt would not have have an ancient civilization. Why? Simple reason, the Egypt could not have enough amount of water. Because these regions, the western side, there is no any kind of a river system. But there is a river Nile which moves all the way from the lakes of Africa into this here, is the reason why you find the things here. So that is the reason why river Nile and river Amazon, river Nile here is regarded as a lifeline of civilization. So a combination of these factors put together, the four factors, the most important is the subtropical high pressure belt. Then you find the trade winds. Then you find the then you find the trade wind. Then you find the the third one, the cold oceanic currents, and then the absence of permanent stream. These four factors together determine why do you find hot deserts, especially within the same latitudes. Yes, within the same latitudes, the primary reason is the subtropical high, west trade winds, and contributing by the oceanic currents. All these three are the dominant one. The fourth supporting factor is the absence of permanent stream. That is the thing. Then the second aspect, mapping. I would like you to prepare the mappings in this way. Sahara, Canary. Mojave, California. Atacama, Peru. Namibia, Benguela. Australia, Australia. So I want you to remember with respect to this. When you remember this, you would never forget. Tomorrow if they ask you, match the following hot deserts of the world with respect to the respective cold oceanic currents. You should be knowing. That is the concept. Hope you have liked this video. Hope you have understood this topic of hot deserts of the world and all. Then there is another more thing. We have discussed only hot deserts until now. What about the cold deserts? You also have something called as the Gobi Desert, the Iranian or the Iranian desert here, which is there in this part of the world. It is also a cold desert. The Patagonian desert of South America, it is also a cold desert. These have nothing to do with respect to the the subtropical one. These regions are beyond the tropical part of the world, but here also there is drier climate. There is no vegetation. There is lack of rainfall. That lack of rainfall is turning into this as a cold deserts. Similarly, you can say the side of the Ladakh is regarded as a cold desert because this is a rain shadow of the Himalayas. Whatever the monsoonal winds, they give rainfall on the Himalayan side towards India, whereas the Himalayan side, the away from India towards China, if you cross the mountains, there they will not be yielding any rainfall. Ladakh happens to be such kind of a rain shadow region. So that is about this concept. Hope you all have understood this. Until we meet next time, we'll meet with next time again with a new topic. Until then, if you have any doubts or if you want the PDF file of this session, you can get in my Telegram channel. You will get the file, and any kind of further doubts with geography, you can always meet me here. Right then, all of you, thank you. Hope you all have a good time. We'll meet again. Thank you. Happy learnings to you.